What's poppin', everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 best decks in our formats. We just saw the results of Portland Regionals, so a lot of things have shifted as we approach Charlotte Regionals, Locals, and more. Let's jump into our number 10 pick. Absolutely beaming through to number 10 is Arceus V-Star. And Arceus V-Star is partnered here with Gigas V-Star, Path, and Judge, and Iono. All those kind of disruptive cards. We're not really here to use Gigas V-Star's ability. We're here to really attack with it because it hits for a decent bit of damage and can really knock out some basic Pokemon 2-prizers. I think that's what I was trying to go for. Zacian V accelerates energies to your Arceus in case you miss something, and that's pretty much what we got going on with this deck. Charon's Care is there in case something's trying to two-shot you, like your opponent attacking you with Charizard EX, they don't get the knockout, you play Charon's Care, you're a colorless Pokemon, it works. I think this deck's going to explode a little bit in popularity because we just saw Makani Tran make top 8. The Stratford brothers and a few other players have seen some success with this deck since San Antonio, and that's really where it's at. Now, this is a great time to let everyone know that in the pinned comment below, there's copy and pastable versions of all these deck lists. Copy and paste them, reference videos for most of them, and if you need any of the cards, check out our description for all of our sponsors. Let's see what we've got going in with our number 9 pick. Falling from one of the top 5-ish decks in the format all the way to number 9 is Rapid Strike Urshifu with Inteleon. You might be asking yourself, how did this once powerhouse deck fall from the top of the list down to the bottom? Well, we started introducing some other tough matchups like Mew VMAX back into the metagame, and to great success. So this deck does not really have a great Mew matchup, even if you add Spiritomb in. And, of course, Charizard's not even the best matchup in the world, so I think Rapid Strike Urshifu would exist within the top 10. It can see success. We might even see this deck top 8 of regionals. However, it's not as well placed as it was before. We're still going to be using our double gunner and spreading some damage around, trying to take extra turns with Yoga Loop. That's really where this deck shines, and I think being a spread master deck has some skill requirement to it. So when it comes down to it, this deck is difficult to play, not as well positioned as possible. So I do want to say proceed with caution when it comes to this deck. It's a great pick if you hit the right matchups and if you're drawing well and you know what you're doing. Otherwise, it might be a difficult deck or a difficult day for you at Charlotte's. Fusion striking its way all the way to number 8 and jumping back into this list after taking a break last week is Fusion Mew. After Maddox's top 4 run with this deck, I decided to put it back at number 8, just without the positioning of the metagames working. I think that Fusion Mew is one of those decks that if you dodge a few poor matchups, it's one of those things where this deck has a strong matchup against a handful of decks. And Meloetta and Ice Cube give you a lot of flexibility with that. Now, we start seeing Mew decks blending together a little bit with Path to the Peak builds, Fusion Energies in both builds now. This version, to me, is a traditional Fusion Strike build, and I think that this is a fair position for the deck. We're just going to load up energies, attack with our Pokemon. We aren't necessarily as disruptive as other builds, but we do have that quick fire power behind us. So if you're a fan of Mew or picked up a League Battle Mew deck over the past couple weeks, I'd say that would be a solid play for Charlotte or local events. Causing a storm in its wake all the way to number 7 is Roaring Moon. We're seeing Roaring Moon go up the metagame ladder from not being on this list to being in the bottom half, and we're getting closer to the middle of the pack. I think Roaring Moon's on a little bit of a rise because there's a lot of decks that you could just knock out, such as the Rapid Strike Urshifu deck. You have a strong matchup against Control, and you can kind of hold your own against anything. As a top player in the game, anyone who flips over Roaring Moon has a chance to beat me, whether it's on the first turn of the game, I get a little bit of a slower setup, and that's really appealing when it comes to this deck. We're all about loading up energies, and this build's still playing water energies. I have seen some builds from Portland that are not really going with water. They're going with pure Roaring Moon. I think the flexibility of Radiant Greninja is really what brings this deck to another level. This, to me, seems like a very solid build. I think it was Brandon Bond's build, or very similar to their build that they had at Portland Regionals. So be sure to give it a try if you haven't already. I do think we're going to see a lot more Roaring Moon as players play it. So if your deck doesn't necessarily beat Roaring Moon, you might want to reconsider or at least try the matchup out again. Blocking its way all the way to the number 6 position is Block Snorlax Control. Cal Connor, one of our TSS teammates, has had a very strong finish again with this deck, sneaking into the top 32 after losing their win and in for potential top 8 spots. This build has kind of taken precedence over the Pidgeot build that we've featured in other videos. If we had to give a position to that one, we do have our access to all of the top 25 decks into our Discord server. So if you haven't already joined our Patreon, check it out at patreon.com/TSSWin. We have a Discord server access, and that allows you to see all of our deck lists. The other build's at 13 out of 25 or so. So right now, this build's great. It just like really countering the metagame. Lost Tina is a little bit scary, but if you play around Lost Tina, decks aren't really going to be countering this deck right now. So if you're a Snorlax player, it might be the time to strike with this deck, or make sure that you're having a counter to it built in, such as playing Roaring Moon, Lost Zone Box, Lost Tina, something like that. But otherwise, if I was playing a Zard deck, I probably wouldn't be playing Minior going forward, but that's just me. Right now, Snorlax is cool, but might not make some friends in the process. Photon blasting its way into the middle of our list at number 5 is, we got Nick Moffat's Miraidon build from Portland Regionals. So going with the experience share over the Bravery Charms allows us to keep more energies in play with this deck, and allows us to have more explosive answers with Raichu V against Charizard EX, or Tapu Koko V EX that can allow you to paralyze your opponent. There's some cool things going on with this deck. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, I think it works, and we saw how it works. So if you're playing Miraidon, Tapu Koko EX Raichu experience share sounds really good. It just seems like the natural progression for the deck as we've kind of explored through the metagame. Is Miraidon the best deck? No, it still struggles against some tough matchups at the absolute top. So we'll have to see exactly how it plays out, but Miraidon, this is probably the build that I'd be updating my list to. And I think this build's a little bit better than the Turbo build. The Turbo build, I think it's just a little bit outside of the top 10. Psychic embracing its way to number 4 is Gardevoir EX, and we just saw Bodie Robinson, first-year master, our reigning NAIC senior champ, take it all the way to a top 4 finish at Portland Regionals. We're probably going to see Gardevoir players kind of pick this deck up and be like, hey, it still is kind of good, and it's pretty good against Charizard, even though that Gardevoir is weak to Dark. We're able to attack with Gardevoir from Chilling Reign and knock out Charizard EX. And I think that this deck has a spot in the metagame. It's kind of getting a little bit closer to the top. However, it is incredibly a skill-based deck, and this list is very well positioned for the metagame. And we have to still see how the metagame plays out, because Miraidon still has a pretty favorable matchup against here. So we'll have to play it out, but every deck's trying to dodge something else. Gardevoir seems like it's found its footing in the metagame thanks to Bodhi's consistent list, and we'll see how the rest goes. But if you're a Gardevoir player, might be the time to bring Gardevoir back at our upcoming Charlotte or your local events. Looking at number 3, we see Mew Max again, and we see Fusion Strike, and I promise this isn't a mistake. This is the new hybrid version of Mew with Path to the Peak. This is the build that Ian Robb and Vance Kelly both played, with Ian Robb making top 8. So shout out to our TSS teammate Ian Robb after their first event on TSS, absolutely tearing it out, making top 8 at the event. This build, you're able to go Ellis's Sparkle if your opponent plays down Spiritomb, so you're able to use your abilities under Spiritomb, blocking Genesect out of the game. Fusion Strike allows you to get around that. The couple Fusion Strike energies we have are purely for that focus, and having some extra energies certainly can't be terrible, right? This build just seems to work well, and if there's a path build, I think that this is the best path build we have in the format. Really taking where Andrew Hedrick's list was at San Antonio and elevating it to another level. So for me, I think a lot of the lists we're getting to the point in Paradox Rift where they're almost solved or almost perfect. So if you're really looking towards for the best lists, this is where you're at. Again, check out the pinned comment for all the copy and pastable lists. Be sure to check that out and copy them into live. Causing some infernal rain at number 2 is Charizard EX. So we had the best deck in format is slid down a spot this week. Take a guess at what the best deck is in the comments below. And why do we have Charizard here? Well, because we saw Lost Tina win the last regionals. It was actually both spots in the finals. So between San Antonio had a Lost Tina in the finals. Portland had double Lost Tina in the finals. And here we're at where Lost Tina is probably going to see a little bit of an uptick in play tough matchup for Zard, and this is the list that Azul played to make top 8 yet again. So he's continuing his reign with Charizard EX, piloting it as being the best player in the game with Charizard EX. And I just went with his pure 60 this time. I'm not going to mess around with it. The Technical Machine de-evolutions for the mirror match, you can attack into a Charizard, and maybe Iono and Technical Machine de-evolution on the last turn of the game, draw a prize, or even just force your opponent out of rare candies. We got some cool options when it comes to this deck, and we have a lot of things that are just perfect when it comes down to the stadium count, when it comes down to the Pokemon count. We did go back with Charmander with the 60 HP just due to our opponents likely not playing Rapid Strike or Iron Valiant as much. So again, Charizard probably easily could be best deck in formats, but what's our best deck in format? Find out next and let us know in the comments below. The king of it all has risen, and we have Tina V-Star. Lost Tina is up at our #1 spot. After making finals at the past 2 regionals and making exclusively the finals of Portland, eventually winning the entire event, Tina has to be the best deck in the format, right? I've been playing this deck for a hot minute again, winning a 1K, top 4ing a cup, and I am ready to see exactly if I want to play it at Charlotte or if I want to try to counter it at Charlotte. The issue about Tina, it's really hard to counter, and it might be counterable by Mew to some degree. However, we did see plenty of games like Dan Hugar versus Vance Kelly where Dan was able to win against the Tina player. Or against the Mew player. So Tina is really good. This is an updated build from John Ang's winning list, and this is the list that I'd be playing tomorrow if I had a Challenge Cup or if I had a regional championships. That might change by the end of next week, but we'll see how it plays out. Stay tuned for more content covering a lot of these top decks on the Shuffle Squad's channel this week, and let me close things out. And that's what we got for this week's update. We got Lost Tina on top. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. I do get back to every single comment, period. So if you want to say hi, if you want to have a discussion, let me know. Totally meet you in the comments. If you haven't already, give this video a like. Check to see if you're subscribed to the channel, and share this video with your friends. We are so close to 20,000 subs. It would be really great to hit that. If you want to help support the Shuffle Squad, check out our description below for all of our sponsors, such as KayFabe. We've got PTCGL store. We have AtlasTCG, Ultimate Guard. All that stuff really helps. All that. If you're looking to get a little bit more information or some extras from the Shuffle Squad, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TSSWin. Decks are all available in the pinned comment. You can copy and paste those right into live. And yeah, you want to know what? That's pretty much it. So I hope that you all enjoyed watching this. I'll get to all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. Hey trainers, tired of having too many cards lying around? I know that feeling, and I know what a hassle it is to try and sell those cards. But selling bulk is now easier than ever with TCG Bulk. Find tons of potential buyers in a single place. You just download the app, look for the best buyer near you, and carefully pack your bulk, ship it, and you get paid. It really is that simple. Turn the cards you don't want into the cards you absolutely need for your next deck. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.